Hello everybody from Dodge County and elsewhere too, but we are here today to talk about the 2022 proposed budget for Dodge County. I am coming today to ask you for help. I am now been on the board for a little over 2 months. It seems it's been a lot longer, but it's been a little over 2 months that I've actually been on the Board of Supervisors. We are now dealing with the 2022 proposed budget. Last year I was involved somewhat, as much as I could be, but now I am more involved and I would like you to help. I don't ask for help often. I like to keep it to some really important and good times where it can be most beneficial, and this is that time. Next Monday and Tuesday, there are two opportunities for the people to share what their thoughts are about this budget and what's going on. And I hope you decide to take part in it. This is only going to be public comments, so you do not have to worry about them drilling you with questions or anything like that. You just present your point of view, say thank you, and you sit down. We're just looking for input. And at this point in time, at the public hearing for the budget, I will be joining the rest of the supervisors to listen to you as you speak your piece. Now there's two things that I want you to know about next week. It's two separate meetings. If you could make both of them, that would be spectacular, but could you please make one of them for sure? The first one on Monday morning is a Finance Committee meeting at 9 o'clock a.m. We have made it known to our board that we do not want these, how much is it, $18 million of federal funds that come to Dodge County called ARPA Funds. The Dodge County government wants to use some of that for employee bonuses. It is meant totally for all of Dodge County, not just a certain 1% of Dodge County residents. And at the last HR meeting, we had a representative of the people. My daughter-in-law Ashley went there to video it for you, and she made it known that we, the people, really don't want this to happen with the ARPA funds, and they ran it through anyhow. So we now are following it to the Finance Committee, and there is a public comment period at the Finance Committee. Could you please come, if you are available, come to the Finance Committee meeting at 9 o'clock, and at the public comment period say no to this employee bonus using ARPA money. We need people to stand up and say that so that it derails this move. Otherwise it's going to happen. That would be the one thing. Now the second part is for a public comment period at the 2022 budget hearing. This is new this year as far as it being in the evening. Last year I had to go during the morning and say my piece. This year they put it in the evening to make it more accessible for everybody in Dodge County. So I would hope that everybody and their brother and sister can come and say something at this budget hearing. It is November 2nd at 6 o'clock p.m. There will be a short little hearing on the redistricting first, but immediately following that will be the public hearing on the budget. So please come and do that. But I'm going to present some information to you about that budget and about some concerns so that you can go into this intelligently and say something that will hopefully make a difference. Now in the description of this video you will see a link that will take you to the budget itself and to the presentation that the finance director gave to the board on October 19th about the budget. I am going to give you some points about that presentation. So if you want to go to that presentation in the link, you can bring it up and you can view what I'm talking about. And we'll take it from there. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but just a few select pages on some issues and concerns I believe we all have that we need to make known to the board. What I see is that the Board of Supervisors for I don't know how many years now has been unable to really say no to a lot of things that the administrator wants to bring forward for Dodge County government. And we the people have to stop just ignoring that. Let's start taking the county back for ourselves. So if you go to that document, on page 2, it's called a high-level summary. And they talk about a tax levy. The tax levy is simply the money that they come and pull out of your pocket to pay for their expenses. They levy that, they force that payment out of your finances, they levy it and bring it to them for their purposes. The proposed 2022 total property tax levy, they say, is down $260,000. Let's all get up and celebrate, right? Wow, that's great. But do you remember the $9 million they borrowed last year to fix roads? That is a separate part of the property tax levy, and that debt tax levy for 2022 suddenly is gone. The debt isn't gone. What happened to it? The first payment for that $9 million was they figured would happen this year. Well, it was pushed off till 2022, so the money they levied last year for that first payment, they took and put in I believe into the general fund for 2022. So now there is no payment required from 2022's taxes to satisfy that debt this year. So they zeroed it out, and now it looks like it's gone. But it isn't. Figures lie and liars figure. They delayed it a year, but they didn't remove it. They call it zeroed out, but it's not zeroed out. Sorry, we still owe $9 million plus interest on that thing, and all of a sudden, oh, our taxes are going down. No more debt tax levy. Bull roar. It's still going to be there. Next year, you'll see it there again. So that payment was taken out of the 2021, put into 2022 in another spot. This spot was left open. It just lowered all the levy needed for this year. But guess what they did? They jacked up the property taxes to fill in that vacuum a little more, even though they wouldn't have had to. So it still looks like it's less, but actually if you put that money back in, that $950,000 or so back in where it's supposed to be, and use their numbers from this year, taxes went up. Mill rate went up. It's all smoke and mirrors. So we need to go and say, no, we don't want this kind of thing to continue. We don't want that $9 million of additional borrowing to happen. Yes, I said additional. Highway Department received $9 million last year. They want another $9.1 million this year. They want another $8.1 million in 2023, another $8.3 million in 2024. They want another $8.7 million in 2025, and they want another $8.6 million in 2026. Wow, not bad. On top of the $10 million they want in these next 5 years for new equipment. We have to start caring about what happens for our taxes. That is on page 2 of this document as you go look for it. A little more on page 2 about the Highway Department. They are overcapitalized. They have more new, nice equipment than they need. They have a love affair, I say, with new paint. I mean, farmers can get into that trouble too, but farmers know that they have to pay for their new paint. The Highway Department has us to pay for it. Let's start looking at this more seriously. It's unnecessary, and the majority of the equipment, well, here's an example. They just wanted to get a wheel loader this last meeting. A wheel loader that I say, in my experience with CAT equipment, is only half wore out. They say it's pretty much done. And I go, no, not at 6,500 hours, sorry. Oh, it's not safe. I go, it is plenty safe. And they have 4 wheel loaders. And they only use it basically 10 hours a week. Now on a farm, that's only half a day. Kidding. But, so in an 8-hour day, they're using it all day, and then count the drive out and back. Okay, 1 day a week, and we need a new wheel loader because the $6,500 wheel loader isn't good enough? And they have 4 of them? This is the kind of thinking that we have to start saying no to It's too much. It's too much. And they want to take another $10 million and replace more equipment the coming years. When is the board going to start saying no and saving us some money? Now, as I said before, if everything would have been kept apples for apples, our taxes would have increased this year, the levy would have increased. So when the administrator took out the debt levy of the first payment, he jacked up the operational tax levy and displaced some of that. So we still got taxed more, but it looks like less because they took the $750,000 out to somewhere else. It was moving numbers around to make things look good. And to quote from the administrator and the finance director and supervisor from District 1, the quote is, tax to the max. You always have to tax to the max so you don't lose out on anything next year. Whatever you tax less than max means you're going to not be able to tax as much the coming year or years. That's the mentality we're dealing with here. So if you can, take part in this public hearing. Who are they serving? Now, let's go to page 4. This page 4 on the document looks at debt levy. The highway, I don't know why I'm always picking on the highway. I'm not always picking on the highway department, but it just seems the highway department is just really front and center right now in all the money they're spending, and they don't really study it out as far as I'm concerned and as far as AJ is concerned. They really need to look at things a little differently. The highway department spending is not sustainable, and I even believe that one of the people on the committee of the highway department said so himself. This borrowing to fix roads year after year after year after year is not sustainable. It'd be as if you in your own household always borrowed money to repair your driveway. Is that sustainable? Throwing money away. So let's pick on another department. Not that we're picking on departments, but we have things to talk about here. I want to give you things to talk about here. There's another example, the Department of Physical Facilities. They're trying to keep up to the highway department. They're having a hard time, but they're trying hard. This year they want to spend $586,000 on, replace an elevator and equipment in the Dodge building. Now this is maybe part of your homework. Find out how many people actually work in the Dodge building, how many people actually would use the elevator. They say it's elevator number 4. Does that mean there's more than one? I don't know. I'm just presenting information here on this point here, things to look at. But next year in 2023, they want to spend $2.7 million on a heated car garage and storage space. We don't have to deal with that this year. It's not coming up. But this is the type of thinking that is going on. And this building that they want to put up, this Taj Mahal for cars and junk, it has been attempted in the past twice. The county board has said no twice to it, and they're bringing it around again with new wrapping paper on. So this is the thing that we're watching, but not this year, but for next year, to keep our minds. If all departments could start really cutting unnecessary spending, we could see taxes going down a whole lot more. But some supervisors are like, you could say, the police force, who are afraid to arrest certain people because of how it might look, even though they're guilty. Some supervisors are afraid to say no to some of these departments just because they're afraid of what might happen if they did. But we, the people, should matter more, right? I think so. If we go to page number 5, you'll see mill rates. And this is the number that just is meant to smoke you to no end, to cause you to not understand real numbers, the mill rate. It's just jargon. It is just a part of a mathematical equation to figure out how much money they get to take out of every $1,000 of your value, of your personal value. So it's going to distract you from the real numbers, just a part of the mathematical calculation. the more value you hold, the less which needs to be taken from each $1,000 of that value to come to the same amount of money. So if you need X number of dollars, if you have more value this year than you had last year, they can take less from each $1,000 this year than they did last year to get to that same amount. That's all the mill rate tells you. It doesn't really tell you anything. So taxes went down, not because the mill rate went down. Taxes went down because the administrator hid the first payment. Get it? I want you to get that in your mind. Hid that first payment of the $9 million somewhere else and didn't add it in again because they could skip a year. That's why taxes went down. So at the end of this, I'm going to give you the points of what to say no for as we are getting through. You will find that helpful then. Now we go to page 9, budget highlights. Don't we all like budget highlights? Property taxes. Here you are told, and we were told at that informational session on October 19th, quit putting so much emphasis on property taxes. That is only 21% of the total revenues brought in for the county. You are just making the most out of just 20% of what we bring in. Well, if you look in the pictures later on, there's another page with a piece of pie that talks about the full revenue picture. Tax revenues, property tax revenues are one of the two largest pieces of the pie. One of the two largest pieces. It is something to worry about. And say, okay, it's only 20%, right? Well, what would happen if all the departments cut their expenses by 20%? No more property taxes. So that's why even if they cut it by 10%, that's going to bring property taxes way down because the other 80% is still going to be there. And so now they just don't need to use us, people, as their safety blanket. You know, it's like, well, we need this, we need that. Well, we don't have enough money coming in over here, so we'll just add a little more on the property tax because we can. We want that kind of thinking to stop. So when they said, you know, don't worry about it, I kind of took personal offense to that because I think it's a real important part because that's our pocketbooks. We're working every day to make that money and they're just saying, oh, well, let's just take it. Colonel David Crockett. You know, that's from years ago, but he was a hero in our history. After he got in politics, here's what he said about politicians. Money to politicians is nothing but trash when it is to come out of the people. But it is the one great thing for which most of them are striving, and many of them sacrifice honor, integrity, and justice to obtain it. There's truth to that. When we talk about taxes, property taxes, it's like it's a flippant conversation. It's like trash to them. They just figure they will so they can, and they can so they will. We have to change this mentality. The citizens of Dodge County are viewed as a safety net for their desires. Can you help me convince them that's not the case? Please try to make it for the budget hearing, especially on November 2nd at 6 p.m. And let's get a lot of people there so that they can see that we are watching and we want things to change. Now the ARPA funds are mentioned on this page, and many of the county departments and some supervisors are, I hate to say it, but they're salivating uncontrollably over this free money. It almost gets to be sickening. I wish it wouldn't be there, to tell you the truth. You know, that $18 million or whatever it is, it was intended to be used for the county and to help it recover from the last 18 months. If you look at the 5 years that the county departments have put together, next 5 years of capital improvement plan. In other words, here's things we want to build, here's things we want to repair, here's things we want to do in our departments. If you total up all the sources that are destined to be ARPA funds, add to it the bonuses to the employees, we eat up almost all of that money. They have plans for almost every dollar, and none of it goes out to the county? Well, you hear the argument, well, we are servicing the county. What percentage of the county do you think really comes in because they want to get services? We have to take a distant look at this and change the perspective here. The administrator and the department heads have taken that ARPA money and they have trying to keep it for themselves. I would like to send it all back and start getting back to a normal operating procedure, which I don't even know, is it possible? We'll find out. But I need your help to start bringing that around. Please come to one, if not both of those meetings. So the 5-year CIP plan, the things they want, and the bonuses. Side note on wages and benefits, because you're going to hear, well, we aren't getting paid enough. There's raises everywhere but Dodge County. All this kind of stuff is going around. The wages and benefits exceed 40% of our total expenses in Dodge County. That's a lot of money. The problem is everything is done by percentages. Now on page 10, other budget highlights. Well, let's see what else is highlighted here. As you read page 10 here, you will notice, as I just had mentioned, percentages. Well, this is going up by this percent, like 1.5% increase here and 3% increase here. So what does that come to? In real numbers? They had to have real numbers to come up with the percentages, but instead of presenting the real numbers here for us to see in plain sight, they take those real numbers and turn them into percentages of the whole number so that we know absolutely nothing. Isn't that nice? We are kept in the dark. And when Supervisor Guckenberger asked about the real numbers on that night of the meeting, he was almost looked upon as a troublemaker. Are you serious? This is what we are here for. No more hiding things like it has been going on. So you'll notice the percentages. So what is 1.25% of what? There's no number given there. What are the step merit increase totals that are mentioned there? If you look at that paper, can you tell what's going on? It takes time now to start digging it up. Or you have to do a information request or a document request, and my last document request is now taken 6 weeks. I don't even know if it's coming. That's the kind of thing we are battling against here. So covering and then continued increase in pay and benefits are hidden behind percentages. Now, I'm not saying every employee is not worth a raise or a bonus or anything. We have a problem with percentages because when something goes up by 1.25% or 3%, those who are making $200,000 make twice as much as those who are making $100,000. And those who are making $200,000 gain 4 times as much as those who are making $50,000. So if you call that a cost of living increase, 1.25%, 1.5%, so are you telling me that it costs someone who gets paid $200,000 4 times as much to live every day that it costs someone who's making $50,000 a year? See what's wrong here? The people on the ground who are doing the work are the ones that do not get compensated. It's always the high-paid heads and directors and administrator. The ones that are getting the big money get the big increases, and it just gets worse. It multiplies. So I would like to see this type of increase kept to dollar amounts rather than percentages, so that if there's a 1.25% increase, well, let's just say everybody gets so many dollars more every year. and that's your increase. I mean, it's per person, it's the same amount. Why should one person need 4 times as much as another? That is where the inequity is, and that's been a problem to fight, because guess who's protecting their little gold mine? Please come to the public hearing and voice some of these issues. These supervisors need to hear it. If we don't do it, we're going to continue padding the fat that's already there. Now, also on that link that was given to you, you will see where you can go directly into the budget document. And I want you to look further into it. I just mentioned some highlights in this presentation. Go into the document and look under some of the biggest departments and see if you have any issues or concerns in addition to what I've said here. Like the Sheriff's Department, he's pulling over $15 million from property taxes this year. He's proposing that. We have the Human Services and Health Department pulling in over $11.5 million. Highways pulling in $5.5 million. So look into these departments. You'll see it all there, and there's smaller ones too. So next Tuesday, come to that meeting at 6 o'clock, please. You have to register, I believe, to speak or comment. But when you get up to the mic, just say your piece and say thank you, and you can sit down again. That's really what we need to do. So, in conclusion, we need to hear from the citizens of Dodge County. That's you and I, but I can't anymore because I'm on the Board of Supervisors. But you still can, as many as possible, the budget hearing or the Finance Committee or both. But say no to $9 million that they want to borrow this year. Say no to the $42 million that they want to borrow for roads in the next 5 years. Say no to all the new equipment that the Highway Department wants to buy in the next 5 years, $10 million worth. Say no to employee bonuses with ARPA money. That is a total misuse of funds. Should I tell them about that one thing, Ashley? The rules for ARPA funds right now, since they're only the interim final rules, they're not the final rules, they're the final interim rules. Isn't that a play with words? It says that if you mistakenly, quote unquote, mistakenly apply these monies to places that are not qualified to receive it during the time before the final rules come out, that you will not have to pay them back. Isn't that nice? The federal government is encouraging local governments to do the wrong thing, and they won't get penalized for it. You need to come to this meeting and say something about this egregious error here. So say no to that bonuses, say no to percentage-based increases. Go to solid numbers. Say no. If you look under the Land and Parks Department, you will see where we're spending money on this service called Thrive Ed. We pay $130,000 a year for them to come in and help us bring business into Dodge County. As far as I see, it's been a boondoggle, and for some reason the supervisors don't want to get rid of it. I don't know if there's conflict of interest somewhere that nobody wants to talk about or what, but for some reason there's this brick wall. I would like you to help me to say no to Thrive Ed also. So take a look in the Land and Parks Department for that something development. Take a look. It's not a large department. Economic development. That's it. Economic development. You'll see more money there than that, but that's a part of Thrive Ed's a part of that. So come to that hearing. Next Tuesday, November 2nd, 6 p.m. It'll start with a little redistricting public hearing. It shouldn't take long, and then the county budget starts right after that. Supervisors will all sit and listen to whatever you have to say. They will not comment. Believe me, I've tried to get them to comment last year, and there was not a peep. So don't expect a comment. They will just sit and listen. Do not expect any conversation. Look at that budget document. See what you think about it. It's there, out there for you to look at and to observe. And let's have the people speak here. We need you to come out. They made this meeting especially in the evening so you could make it. And give us your 2 cents worth about it, or your $1 million worth about it. We're looking for all inputs. So I know this got a little longer than usual, but I wanted to get this information out. Review it. Go back in the video, listen again, go to the document, compare, see if I'm right, see if I'm wrong. It's a lot of information there, but I believe I'm fairly spot on. So please make our voices be known. Thanks again. We'll talk later.